My man, the people. Oops. You said it what?
You're on live, just in case you didn't know.
Yeah.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another session of Focus on Liberia on the Marketplace. I am your co-host, Gabriel Carter. I have in the studio here with me Jimmy. Jimmy has been joining us consistently.
How you
And
like it?
today we're going to be talking about the business, economic and business climate under
Yeah.
either
I
Jimmy.
Yes. How you
Yeah, I
doing?
think there's a noise in your background. That we're going to be
Sorry
talking
about
about.
that. As we were talking, I'm at
Yeah.
the airport. I'm about to leave the
Okay.
sunny wilderness of Utah,
Yeah, yeah,
and but what's going on back home is so important that
yeah,
I didn't want to miss the show.
yeah. No, I understand. I know you gotta leave, but thank you for joining. We kind of started late because there's
Yeah,
some logistical things in the background, but hopefully maybe you can stay on for another 10 minutes or so. But if not, I think Alex is with us. I don't know if he's still on or if he's left, but yeah. So today's show we're going to be talking about the economic and business climate under either a Weah or a Boakai presidency. Um, and there are a few things I want us to look at. One is, first of all, if you're going to change a country, you want to, well, depending on who gets elected, first you have to diagnose where we are as a country. You want to look at it economically, and you also want to look at the business environment that drives the private sector, where it is. Um, we also want to look at, how do you, so once you diagnose this, how do you right the ship? What do you prioritize? Do you do you look at the fiscal side or do you look at the monetary side? Do you have a do they have a bigger picture? And once you have a bigger picture, what are the smaller steps you're going to take to get to that to get to that bigger picture? So those some of the things we're going to talk about is timeline, the time frame, the priorities, We also want to look at how do you consistently, because in order to fix what we currently have right now, you have to be able to get the revenue coming in. It's just like you have at a sales job, right? You need the money coming in to be able to do the basic thing you need to do before you can say, hey, now let's look at how do we increase the revenue, right? And the things that you're going to do either from the fiscal side or the monetary side will help you to increase the revenue. So the things we're going to look at is, how do you consistently at least get at least 800 million a year for budget? Um, do you do it from the fiscal side or the monetary side? And also the bigger thing I want us to look at is the concession. Do we revisit a concession agreement, or do we just look at other avenues to grow revenue and depending on who comes in, whether it's a Boakai or we, I guess, second term, um, to really put this country on a path where it needs to be. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. Um, so I think the first thing I want us to look at here today is where do you guys think we are right now as a country? You can look at this either from the economic side, and or you can look at it purely from the business side of things, the private sector side of things, in terms of where we are as a country right now. You can look at it from any angle. Where do you guys think we are? Do you guys think we are as a country right now?
Well, let me come in real quick, okay? Where we are as a country, there's still a lot of possibility and opportunity to take advantage of. What I have noticed though, we have not, where we fall short is we
Mhm.
have not developed capacity
Yeah.
all over. We're talking about human capacity. In other words,
Yep.
we don't have enough professionals.
Yep.
Um, I think they have not done enough to
Yep.
create more professional librarians. In fact,
Right.
even the professional librarians that are available, I don't see them welcomed home. You see,
Right.
these professionals, not only can they do the work, but they can teach others how to do the work.
Right.
So we're lagging in capacity, also in infrastructure and other amenities. One of the necessities for development is
Mhm.
electricity.
Mhm.
Um, you're talking about, of course, water,
Mhm.
roads,
Mhm.
and all these things you have to develop that enable your economy to
Mhm.
grow, to nourish your economy where it can become one robust.
Mhm.
So the first thing to do is to develop to target your capacity so that business can grow. Okay, it's a one thing talking about bringing in investors,
Mhm.
but every investor before they make an investment, they evaluate the those things we talked about just
Yep.
now. Do you
Right.
have electricity? Do you have roads? How am I going to get my goods there? What are the tariffs? All these things they consider before making that investment. So you have to create an atmosphere. That's all government's supposed to do. We don't need them getting in business, but you have to create the environment that will encourage business, and that is enabling the facilities required
Mhm.
to do it.
Yep.
We've been lagging there, and to me, that's where it hurts us most. Where our resources that we have, we're not getting the best out of them
Yep.
because in the extractive industries, they're just taking it away. We have not developed secondary, third, and tertiary levels of processing where we benefit from value added. And those are the things that will really bring returns to the economy.
Mhm.
So we need to take a hard look at developing our capacity before we can even talk about people bringing businesses in the country. You know, and that's where I think we are right now. Um,
Yeah.
that's where we need to, and I think that's what we need to focus on at this point.
Brilliant. Uh, Alex, same question to you. As we were discussing, right? The country as we are right now, we're headed into a runoff election, and there are two prospects, two candidates. The incumbent, who is Weah, and there's also the opposition, who opposition candidate happened to be Mr. Boakai. And the question that I posed to, I don't know if you heard me pose it, was that what in order to look at the country as where we're going, what to expect, we have to first understand where we are, right? To know where you are before you say, okay, I'm here now. I can go here. I can go here. I can go here. I can do that. So from your understanding of you know the economy and everything else, where do you think we are as a country right now? And you can, as I said earlier, you can go at this from every angle. You can look at it purely from the business standpoint. You can do combination of the business and the economic side. Uh, but where do you think we are as a country right now?
Yeah, thank you, Gabriel. But let me first of all greet our audience out there. Say hello to them and to everybody, those who are watching the show now, those who are listening to the show now, and those who will do that later on, and those who are participating in the show with their comments and everything else, and our lawyer audience, FOL Marketplace audience out there. Let me say hi. Let me, in the same token, let me apologize for my background. I'm attending a social function and I have to do this. I have to pull myself out and do this. But I'm in a theater. So, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I will, share a lot with what Eastman said. But
Uh-huh.
in a short sentence, I will say we are at an opportunistic point. When I say opportunistic point is Liberia is still looking like a virgin where there's a lot of things to be tapped. If you look at our macroeconomic situation, if you look at our balance of payment, if you look at our inflation, if you look at our millennium scorecard, there's still opportunity for growth. There's say opportunity to do a lot of things. There's opportunity to grow the business environment. There's opportunity to grow to make more reforms in our financial, in our monetary and fiscal arena. There's opportunity to make improvement to our infrastructure into agriculture. I mean, we have a situation where we can harness our development partners. We can harness our own internal income generation capacity, of course. But those we can only do that with the right set of people. So yes, to answer your question for sure, we are at the point where we can tap on the opportunities that we have.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was trying to find out is, where do you think we are right now? Like economically, I know there's the potential is there, but economically, where do you think we are as a country? Yeah, yes, there's opportunity. There's always room for improvement and uh, opportunities here and there. Depending on what you're looking. But as a country, what? Okay, so let me reframe the question. What do you think are the current challenges that the next person coming in, be it either Weah or Boycott, need to look at either from a priority standpoint? And I think Jimmy identified some of those, such as the human capital. We lack human capital, the talent, even the people that are there, they cannot, with the little human capital we have, it's not as much. He talks about also the electricity. He talks about the water, the roads. He even went as far as talk about the extractive industries in terms of creating a value added in those areas, right? Um, so, from your perspective, what do you think the like some of the challenges are right now?
So I was looking at the positive aspect along the horizon in terms of the opportunities. But to juxtapose that with the challenges we have, yes, indeed, we have challenges. We have challenges with inflation. Yeah, even though we say inflation numbers are going down, but economic is not well told when prices are going up on the local market. whilst we say insurance, I mean, inflation is going down. So we are challenged there with market prices. We are also challenged with the way we calculate our inflation numbers. We are also challenged with our private sector. There's not much private sector growth in the country, and we're also challenged with security. We challenge with no, I mean, private sectors would not. Nobody sent put monies after an area which is not perceived,
Mhm.
to say the least, to be secure. We're challenged with rule of law.
Mhm.
We're challenged with corruption. There's report of massive corruption going on in the country. We're challenged with situation where things happen in the country and leaders don't speak to the issues, especially the head of the country don't speak to the issues.
Mhm.
And once you don't speak to the issues, like most recently with the election, with deaths and things like that, leadership is not taking the oneness to speak to the nation to calm the nation down. We're talking about recently a situation with between the Army Chief of Staff and the National Security Agency, where one person is pointing, accusing fingers and making certain remarks, which the commander in chief is not speaking to. So we are challenged against a lot of fronts where leadership is not taking a step to kind of speak to these issues and calm them down. Actions are not being taken on the rule of law in terms of things that are happening in the country. Over the past few years, there's not a situation where somebody has been brought to justice for corruption. We're challenged with the fact that good governance is a problem where you have a lot of misfits into different head of different organizations, which does not bring good governance situation in the country. We're challenged with the fact that the leadership and governance of the country is characterized by the narcissistic nature of one person who calls himself the leader of the country. So those are huge challenges, and as a result of those things, we are lacking behind with private sector growth. Even Liberians that want to come to the country to give their widows mite into investing in the private sector are challenged by the fact that corruption and people want something upfront. If you take 200,000 to the country to invest in something, somebody tell you say they want 50,000, 100,000 of that money. How do you invest? We're challenged with ritualistic killing, prejudicial killings, and nothing seems to be done. So we're challenged a lot.
Okay. So to be without to be fair, I think the I heard about the incident with the the defense minister, or however you call him, or the chief of staff of the army chief of staff. It's in as much that I think we kind of we want peace in our country. I think sometimes we take things that happen and just blow it out of proportion. Maybe it's just a Liberian social media. It is okay. If there's you know quarreling between the army and whatever it is. Those things happen. Like you cannot just say, hey, you live. Let me use it an example. You cannot just say you in this relationship for I don't know how many years, or marriage for how many years, and there won't be any quarreling or disagreement or whatever. There's going to be the tug and pull, and I think sometimes when those things happen, we kind of just blow it out of proportion. I think whatever was with the army chief of staff, and I think it's just something we blew out of proportion. Now, if it was getting out of hand where people were making threats here and there and it was getting escalated, then I say yes, we could have, say, hey, this is getting out of hand. This is, but because it's coming from somebody that higher up, we just expect the guy to just be quiet and just do his job, and that anything that comes from him that one party doesn't agree with or one side doesn't agree with, we kind of see it as if, okay, this is going to threaten our securities in this country, this is going to threaten our securities. It is okay, even if there were disagreement within the AFL, they can sort it out. That's why he's the leader. He can sort it out. He can have disagreement with other people, and that can be out in the open. But once it's getting to a place what is, it begins to threaten, what is escalating and people are going at each other, then I think we can. But I think for me, that's my point on it. I just think we kind of blow things out of proportion, and we kind of fear monger just because we come from this war. So we any little bit of disagreement, we want to shut it down and just quarrel it down. But that's my
I
take
don't,
on
I
it.
don't know. I don't know where you're going with that. This is one occurrence, and this is especially in the security sector of our country. I don't know. You are insinuating that it should blow out of proportion before
No,
you
I'm
know
not insinuating
army at
that.
high level, or especially at the tense time where we are having elections where there are a lot of um, different conspiracy theories and this and that, and especially when political rivals and people are killed on two or
But
three
do you
different
know what he
occasions.
said? Do you know what
Are you insinuating that, or it should blow out of proportion before statements are
No,
made?
no, no. I'm not insinuating. Do you remember what happened? Do you know what happened?
You haven't answered my question.
No, no. I'm asking you, but do you know what happened? Then I will answer your question. I
At least
just
we know that. At
I
least we
answer
know
your
that.
question that I'm not insinuating, but do you know what happened? Which of
At least at least we know that two person died in Lofa. Um, at least one person died in the Ghana's area, and no statement have been made. And then we have a situation of conflict between the army and the national security. That is how far it can go. So are you insinuating that, oh yeah, it should rise to tension, and people should be shooting at each other before it's
Uh,
brought on?
now?
can I come in real quick?
Go ahead, Ismail, before I
Let me
go ahead.
come in real quick.
All right.
And agree that there have been some fear mongering and snake rattling, saber rattling. But let's take a keen look here. A few months back, the very same chief of staff
Yep.
mentioned that he had received a message to start an insurgency, and he did not mention who had given him this message, and he brought it to the attention of the public, but we got no details as to who was encouraging an insurgency, encouraging him to take over, and all of that was very concerning to me when I heard it. And because it's as if we get information and we do not react accordingly. Something like that, had it happened, it should have been investigated. The public should have been notified, and we should have had a resolution. So I am, because of that previous notification coming from the Army Chief of Staff again. Then he involves himself in another this civil affair, because mind you, elections and things like that, the army should not be involved in that. That is a
Right.
civilian thing, and for him
Right.
to be involving himself once again, I think that is concerning. Now we all want to protect the peace and stability of Liberia, but again, what I'm saying is, why is this information not made available? Why is the requisite investigation not carried out so we can have a resolution? Why is everything being done in such a clandestine way, only giving the public, only, stroking public fear by giving these tidbits of information? I think that's, for me, that is a bit unprofessional.
Yeah.
And now we hear all this thing. So that, I think, we are the way we're handling things is causing some of the problems.
Yeah.
Um, and we need to handle things more professionally.
Okay. Thank you, Jimmy. And this is what you said exactly the reason why I think we're blowing this thing out of proportion, because you said exactly why the reason why I was going to say. the army should not get involved in elections unless they are there to protect the citizens. Period.
But
You're
Gabriel,
not.
I don't know
Let me
what you mean
finish.
by they're blowing things out of
Let me
proportion.
finish. Let me finish.
Eastman
Let
just
me
said that
Jimmy. Let me. I mean,
the
Alex.
same chief of staff,
Alex.
the same
Alex.
chief of staff came and said that he received text
Let
messages from
let
people
me
that should cause an
let me
insurrection,
finish. Let me
and that
finish
was
my
not
thought.
investigated. That was not
Let me
investigated.
finish my
The
thought. Let
same
me
chief
finish
of
my
staff
thought.
is saying something else. Then you're saying
Alex,
that people are blowing out of proportion.
just let me
Who is
finish my
blowing
thought.
it out of proportion when the chief
Just
of
let me
staff
finish my
came
thought.
and made a statement, and the leader of the country has made
Let
public,
me finish. I
remark to
think we're
that to
playing
come
this thing on a
on it.
partisan. I think we're playing. Let me finish my thought. I
Don't
don't.
listen to where anybody. No, don't make statements that talk about partisan. Don't
I
judge
mean,
partisan.
we're
We're
not
talking about our
arguing. We're not
country.
arguing over each other
Probably
here.
you are the one.
Wait.
Probably you
No,
are the
no,
one who are bringing a partisan nature to it.
no.
So don't
Listen,
insinuate to anybody that are
we're
bringing a
not arguing
partisan
over
nature.
each other here, Alex. This is
Go
not how
ahead.
we talk. This is not how we talk. Please, I beg you. You talk, we listen to you. Jimmy talk, we listen to him. I'm talking, you listen to me. If you're going to be arguing over people that we can't have conversation like that. This is not that kind of platform, and you're aware of that. I'm really appealing to you. Let's be professional here. This is not. We're not in a tie shop where we just talking over each other. That way, nobody will get
Gabriel, you're
anything
not
from us.
insinuating that I'm in a tie shop. We are having an
No, we're
intellectual
not. We're
conversation.
not. We're not.
I
I'm
would
not
not
talking over
appreciate you
you.
talking about a tie shop.
No, you
No,
can't talk
we
over
are the
people.
one having the conversation here. So you are
Okay, so
insinuating that I'm acting like an Aisha person. I would,
but
I
you're
would, I would,
talking over
I would,
people. You're
I would
talking
take
over me
offense to
again.
that statement. I
Okay,
take
go
offense
ahead.
to your
Talk.
statement.
Talk. When you finish,
I take
I would
offense
talk.
to that statement. We are
Yeah,
not in a Taisha.
I should have taken offense to you talking
Don't
over
make
me.
that statement.
I should take offense to you talking
Well,
over
then
me.
you should
We're
be
having a
careful with your
conversation
statement,
here.
Gabriel. You should be careful with your statement.
It doesn't matter. You talk. If I have a point you want to counter, you wait till I finish, then you counter that point. That's how professional have conversation. You're not in a debate or whatever it is. We're having a conversation here. If you have an offense to what I say, you jot the point down. Gabriel, you made this point, made this point. This is what I don't agree with, and you go on and make your point. You don't talk over people. This is not like it's not a who speak the loudest thing we're on here. You cut me off in the middle of the conversation, and you consistently kept going until I have to give you a chance to
Gabriel, can you
continue.
continue? Can you
No, no.
continue now?
Seriously. I hope we don't continue that here. Let's have respect for
I'm
each
not
other
your
here.
son, Gabriel. So I said
I'm not.
continue.
Nobody said you are anybody's parent. I don't think you're old enough to be my
No, you
parent.
can't shut me
Let's have
down. You can't
professional.
shut me down.
Can we,
But
can we,
we're not
can we
having
If I
go
have
fun.
an
on
Let's
with
have a
the,
interjection, I will make
discussion
that
here.
interjection.
wait a minute, can we go on
That's not how we're gonna have
with the
that conversation.
conversation?
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah, you
please,
can't keep
let's go
talking
on.
over people here. You
Let's
can't. You
go.
can't do that.
Gabriel,
Gabriel, let's go
make
ahead.
your statement,
Let me say
and
what I was
then
saying.
any rebuttal or counter
Yeah, that's
statement will be followed. Okay, just
right.
go ahead,
That's
please.
how you talk.
Let's go ahead.
So let me say what I was saying.
Mhm.
The army chief supposed to have a neutral ground, regardless of what it is. He's not supposed to take side. So if there's an incident in the country, and the police have the first authority to make sure we have election peace. Above that is the army. If things are getting out of hand, that's when they can inject themselves, right? So if let's say somebody die in a place, the police supposed to investigate. The police have that jurisdiction. Unless it escalates, things are getting out of hand, you can inject the army. So they are right to have their neutrality in this election. And that's thing we don't. That's something we don't. I will get to the other point that you made, Jimmy. So I agree with you. When someone made that statement to him or kind of petition him to start an insurgent, and this is why we have the administration, we have the government, we have not just this administration. Our lawmakers don't know what they're doing. If he made that comment publicly, it's not incumbent upon a citizen to get anything out of it. It's the lawmaker that's supposed to summon him to go in front of the house or the speakers and say, "Hey, you made this statement publicly. We have to compare him to reveal who actually reached out to him to make that comment." Right now, as far as the argument that he made with the national security, that is a jurisdiction problem. Hey, I have jurisdiction, you have jurisdiction. That is a problem. As with him, what he feel as a leader is bringing this thing out in the public again. And if he does that, again, it goes to the lawmaker to now call him in front of the House and the representative or the Senate to reveal exactly what the matter is. You know, that is the problem that I see with that, right? But as far as the citizen injecting ourselves and doing all of these things, and I think we need to put that responsibility on the lawmaker. We can yell and scream, nothing will come out of it until the lawmaker do something. That's what I was trying to say. That that responsibility, those responsibility are the responsibility of the lawmaker. If things are getting out of hand, you have senators, you have representatives that can question that guy and have him reveal exactly the intent of who reached out to him and who it was that reached out to him, and they can make him reveal that individual and take that investigation to the extent that to which they can take it under the rule of the law. That's what I was trying to say. He needs to maintain his neutrality. He can't take party side. Oh, this person died here, this person died here. The police have first jurisdiction over that. So until they call him in, he cannot just go inject himself. That's what I'm trying to say.
So has that been done, Gabriel?
That's the point that I was trying to make. That is the responsibility. That's where he failed. The first incident that Jimmy mentioned, and this one here. Every time something happened, he brings it to the public. It is okay if he does, but once he does that, the senators, the representative becomes aware. That's when you now summon this guy in front of the House or the Senate. Hey, reveal what happened, and they can make him do that. But we just sit here, the senators and representatives do nothing, and we say, hey, this guy, he's wrong for doing it, he's wrong for doing that. You and I, as always, we talk about the economy here all the time. We can yell and scream and beat our chest and do this until those people that are sitting in front of them who get paid to do that job, they until they do that job, we're just beating on a talking drum here. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not maybe the word that I use is blowing it out of proportion. The word that I'm trying to use is the onus of the responsibility lies on the Senate and the representatives. That's it, even the president, you know. So that's the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah, but Gabriel, the point I was trying to make to you is these things are happening. Leadership is not taking the action. Leadership does not mean one person. It can be the head of the executive branch of government. It can be the legislature, as you were saying. It can be the judicial branch of government. But in this instance, it can be either the head of the executive or the legislative branch of government. And to this point, none of those actors, key actors, have acted. Now you were saying that the reason why I had a problem with what you're saying is that you're saying that, oh, are we just blowing this thing out of proportion? So you are now putting the oneness on the citizens or the different news organs that are reporting this thing here, as opposed to the lack of leadership that that require these kind of things down. So when you say that, oh, we're blowing these things out of proportion, then you are trying to exonerate leadership.
No, that's not what I was trying to do. What I'm trying to say, I said this before in another show that I think I've made a request that whoever gets elected, I'm just giving an example. Whoever gets elected should pass a law that Liberian and diaspora should be able to vote. Now, I said that on this show, right? Hoping that somebody, when if Boakai gets in or Weah gets a second term, somebody can pass a law that will be citizen that in the diaspora can just be able to go to the embassy here and cast their vote. Now, the same token, I can come out here and sing that song, but until I pick up the phone and call the representatives, the senators who are in charge of making law or making amendment to the law to allow that to happen, nothing is going to happen unless those guys act. I can't. Now, in developed country, you can create a citizen, whatever citizens, concerned citizen group, and it will force these people to do their job. We don't have that in Liberia. So the honors that I keep putting on these people is they need to do their job. If somebody, there's a failed leadership on the chief of army part, I'm not going to excuse him for that. I'll constantly bring in stuff like that. Some things you don't need to bring in light, especially in the country that we have. Certain things, like you said, you see what happened that it's kind of riled up everybody. Those things need to be ironed out behind closed door. If somebody stuff like that happen, you are you are the highest security clearance. You're supposed to iron those things out behind because you know the moment you bring it to the light, people will start creating fear in people. or what is happening, or somebody
Give it.
reaching out to you.
Let pivot. Let pivot to the
Yeah,
main
that's what
topic.
I'm
But
trying to say here. Right.
may I chime something in? This, you know, this one thing I've noticed that's been characteristic of this administration: the lack of a professional approach to many things.
Exactly.
It's as if I'm not sure if they are just disregarding proper protocol and procedures. And every military and security organization know that standard operating procedures must always be applied. We think these things are not important and we disregard them. There's lack of respect for protocol and procedures, and that can lead to other problems. Um, if you were to your first question, one of them, I think you, if this administration, what will we have? Will we have more of this same lack of protocol, lack of respect for protocol, or will the next administration, presumably the Boakai administration, will we see more enforcement of protocol procedures and standards? Um, taking a stab at this, because he is from old school, where there were a lot of standards those days, a lot of things, and not everything was 100% perfect, but we standards and procedures were the day, you know, the call of the day. I think we will see more appreciation for that. And if I were to give any one criticism to the current administration, I say you guys do not understand why these standards and procedures must be in place. Either that or you don't, you have not been doing it. Look at the debacle with the 16 million that got missing from the bank. That was just a procedural error. And when you start making procedural errors, well, anything can happen. Things get missing because you're not following proper procedures. Anything can happen. So I think we definitely need more appreciation for procedures, more education about procedures. That is the only way we will turn this ship around and grow our economy like we want to. Without standards and procedures being enforced and respected, it cannot happen.
Brilliant. So thank you for talking about, you know, turning ships around. That is the next question we have on on this topic. I think we went off a tangent there for a long time. So the next question, given what we've talked about, right? I think you and Alex both talked about where we are as a country. Whether economically, are you looking at the business climate or everything inclusive? Given that backdrop, and we're on the cusp of one of these guys being elected president, either as an incumbent or as a new president, right? Given what you have said, what both of you have said, what do you guys think now will be priority if any of those, you know, if Weah gets elected? What I mean, we've already seen what he's done, but given that backdrop, if any of these guys gets elected, what do you think should be the way to right this ship? You know, you can put yourself in the shoe of the president, or if you can look at it as an advisor. What would you recommend that he does or they do to right some of these ships that you guys talk about, some of the challenges that you guys talk about earlier? Yeah. First questions.
You
Anyone?
want to go? You want to go, Alex? I already started the same thing.
Yeah. In any situation, you got to identify the problem before you can start to identify the solution. Without the problem identification, it will be hard for you to find a prescription, right?
Right.
You go to a doctor, doctor will say you tell the doctor say you're A-hecting. He would do a evaluation, he take you to the lab if it's necessary, or he send you to a specialist, and then things like that is done. So at least we've been able to identify some of the problems, some of the challenges that we have. I was trying to take it from a more positive point to say, okay, these are opportunities that we have. Um, But I think some of the things that we need, what are some of the things that plague our country from time immemorial? Um, that simple things like enforcing the law, right? I always say that Liberia is not lack of policies and procedures. There are a lot of lack of laws, lack of regulations. There are a lot of things that are on the books. There are a lot of things that have been worked on over the past years since 2005, especially, or 2006, especially. We've had a lot of intervention from Liberians, qualified Liberians, from the help of our international community. We have a lot in our financial sector. We have a good budget system. We have a good revenue generating processes. We have laws, but one of the biggest challenge we have is law enforcement. I mean, enforcement of these things. So one of the things that anybody can do is to ensure that we enforce these rules and regulations, these laws and regulations that we have to the fullest. As simple as Gabriel and Jimmy, as simple as taking action for the police, their inaction or their action causing traffic to block.
Mhm.
As simple as somebody get jumper and running on the opposite side of the road, which is very dangerous. How do you going straight? You're supposed to be on the right side of the road. You end up on the left side of the road. Okay, it shouldn't be done. Only striking people, maybe the president, or striking people who, by law,
Ambulance.
have that serene
Right.
that people are alerted, a few minutes ahead of time that this XYZ, who is entitled by law, to do that, right?
Mhm.
But we've seen in our country where any Tom, Dick, and Harry, including a taxi driver, can jump on the left side of the road and nothing happens to that person, right? We've seen a situation where somebody break the law and he gets a tip, the police gets a tip, and the person go and no action is taken. So we need to start to build a culture of enforcement of the law where people become afraid to do certain things because they know the repercussion. And they say what? Jimmy, what do they say? They say every step begins with a little drop, right? It has to start from somewhere. It has to start from somebody. I can give the case of Ghana all day because I live and work in Ghana for a number of years. I can give the case of America where you can go to the remotest side of the United States of America and you see a stop sign, you will stop. You don't see a police officer, but because a culture of enforcement and a culture of punishment if you are caught. You may not be caught, but if you are caught doing that, do people break the traffic law? If even the stop sign in America, they do. But when you are caught, but in Liberia, impunity has become commonplace because actions are not taken. And it takes a leadership, again, it takes leadership, whether head of the institution, whether legislator, whether head of the country, holding the cabinet minister responsible, and the ripple effect of cabinet minister holding the deputies and the assistant and deputy and assistant holding everybody else that work with the institution responsible, whether the leader is holding the police director responsible, and if you don't ensure that these things are done, I will fire you because there are a lot of other librarians, qualified librarians that are in line for this job. As simple as that. The other thing is fighting corruption. Corruption has permeated our society that even it goes everywhere. And the culture of enforcing that situation, it is not in place. The culture of utilizing all the different organs. We have all the different organs, Gabriel. We have the GSC, we have the LACC, we have the internal audit agency, we have the financial intelligence unit. We have all these institutions. But again, we create these institutions and we turn around and start these institutions from the back, from them not enforced and doing their job. We have all kinds of processes in Liberia, leading to the legislative hearing processes for cases of corruption. Those processes are not being implemented. So you need, and another thing, so rule of law fighting corruption. But to do that, you need to institute good governance. Good governance start with Gabriel. It start with appointing the right people to the right positions. I would tell you, you don't need, for example, from my personal experience working in Liberia, you don't need the only place you need a lawyer, a counselor at law, is at the Ministry of Justice because the law requires that he be a counselor at law because there are certain things he needs to do that require that law lesson. You don't need to be an aviation specialist to be a head of the. You just need to be a good manager, a good administrator, and know how to do strategic management and all that stuff. Of course, you need an element of people who are qualified in that arena. If you're qualified in that arena, for example, you can be a head of an agriculture ministry where you don't come with an agriculture pedigree, right? So we need to put the right people into places with integrity and who have, record of performance. Those are the people we need to play. And once you do that, and the head of the country who appoints these people need to have a performance contract, so to speak, with them. That hey, if you don't achieve these things in the next 90 days, if you don't achieve these things in the next 1 year, I don't think I will have you there. And if you don't hold them accountable, you don't, because you give somebody a duty, you give them the authority, you give them the tools to work, and you get feedback. And if they don't give you the right feedback, after certain times, you get rid of them. And you put on, you work in a corporate area, you know what happens there. And the public service is not void of that happening. So those are the three things, the first three things I would say.
Thank you. That is a lot, and I took copious note when you're talking. But Jimmy, do you want to come in? I know you're about to board. Took copious. I have follow up questions for you, Alex.
I don't know, you guys jinxed me or whatnot, but there's a serious delay here.
Oh, we jinx you, yeah, that's true.
Don't worry, I went to the Grivel
we
booth.
delay a flight.
Serious delay. I'm in a very small airport,
I think it's
and
because of the weather.
well, I mean, if they said it was a maintenance issue on the plane, it's a tiny airport, smaller than Spring. Just to
Oh,
get you
yeah.
out here.
Where?
In Utah, I'm in some place
Utah,
called Navarre.
Jesus.
Okay.
It's not the Salt Lake City is the big airport.
Yeah.
But I'm in one of those. It's a 2.5 hours away, and now they said the kind of problem they got to wait for the technician to come from Salt Lake City, and
That's what you get with it. Ow.
Well, that's a blessing in disguise to us. So you're stuck with us for the rest of the show.
Yes, I stuck with you. But so, what was the last thing that you just?
So the question that I asked is, I think you and Alex did a good job in terms of diagnosing the problem from your perspective.
Right.
And the next question that I have is, given the two candidates we have that are in the race right now,
Okay.
Once they come in, how do you think, or what do you think they should focus on to right this economic ship that you guys have talked about?
Oh, okay. That's a wonderful question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I already said said it. We have to build capacity. That's that. We can't do nothing. We can't expect to grow an economy without growing our capacity. Okay. And it would be naive and foolhardy to think, yeah, we want a great economy, but we want to develop the people. We want to develop our electrical grid. We don't want to develop the road network. We don't want to develop the systems that are going to facilitate this business growth. We don't want to do that, but we want it to grow. And it has to be a systematic, constructive procedure of fixing it. It can't just be ad hoc. A lot of people do things in ad hoc. They say, "Oh, let me just build a hospital there." If you go build a hospital in the middle of nowhere to get drugs, sometimes no electricity, or no way that people can get that, then you have not done the due justice you have to build it in a way that will coordinate with other development. Like if you're going to be, if you want to put a hospital, the first thing you have to ask yourself, how many people have access to that area? Is there a road network? Are there ways of we using satellite clinics instead of a whole hospital? You have to really go into these things, and so that you can get the most out of your buck. A lot of times we do these things in silos, and these silos don't survive. Anything you do, especially as broken down as we are, it has to be sustainable. We talk about doing something that will not break down tomorrow. We want something that will be lasting tomorrow, that will be able to build upon it, that other industries, other adjacent industries and companies can benefit.
Yeah.
That's how you do, it's a wholesome plan, not an isolated plan. That's how you have to coordinate all your plans. And I see a lot of people doing things there to help, but if it's not coordinated, it would be difficult, it would not be sustainable.
Yeah.
So definitely our planning has to be coordinated. And like right now we got a PAPD. Have they assessed? Let's start with Weah. My first thing we'll do, you have to assess your PAPD. How successful have you been? What do you need to change? What do you need to address going forward? Do you need to scrap the whole plan, or what kind of adjustments you're going to make? The only way you can know what to do to change is to make an assessment of where you are. I think you, Carter, you alluded to it. You have to go look at what you have done, look at a PAPD, where has it failed, and where can we improve? That will this Weah administration will have to do. If it's the Boakai administration, now you're starting anew. There are many things that you've seen, but you're not going to know it until you get in power. That's when you're going to really know the mess or the great thing you have just inherited. So for them, it will be a period of research and assessment. And so that they know, I mean, they can right now. You can have plans, like I could make a plan to cut my hair, but if I realize that that money I needed to buy food, I'm not going to cut my hair. So it's one thing to plan, but now what they will need to go through is a period of assessment. And they will have to target maybe some short-term goals, some long-term goals. Again, the economy. I think we need to focus on that more than anything else, because the economy, if we are unable to grow that, the economy, the private sector, that in itself will provide jobs and will provide livelihood for Liberians. Right now, Liberians are catching a hard time. Everybody depending on the government. And if we're able to grow that, then that in itself will provide jobs. I think the people need relief. I think any other administration come, there will be people be looking for relief from them. So they will need to start doing things immediately so people can start feeling some less pressure, economic pressure on them. So that will be their job. They will have to take into that from the jump to provide some relief to the people, so the people know that they're doing something.
Okay. So
let me add a little bit what
go ahead.
What Eastman. Let me buttress on what Eastman was saying, but I would take it from a different direction. I would take it from, not really different direction, but you see, the reason why I say number one, good governance. Number two, ensure that the rule of law is working, making sure that we enforce. And of course, laws are not regulations, policies and procedures are not static. they're subject to change, upgrading every now and then based on changing environment, and then also the fight against corruption. Now, you see, when you put in good governance, when you, like I stated first, when you put in the right set of people, the right man, and you hold them accountable to the extent that if they don't perform, you give them time, time frames to perform certain things, and you hold them accountable. And if they don't perform, you suspend, you reshuffle, you do whatever, you change things around, you replace people, and the people will start to perform. And some of the things that Eastman is saying, and some of the things will begin to happen. Right?
Mhm.
We have different things that challenges that we say. We have challenges in our health sector, we have challenges in our
Yeah.
education sector, we have challenges in our attracting foreign direct investment,
Yeah.
improving our private sector growth and stuff like that. But if you don't have the right people, so specifically, for example, let's look at Weah, right? You got take it or leave it. You only have two-person in the race right now, like you started.
Yeah.
One of them got to get that 50% plus, some kind of one.
Yeah.
There's no way it can be tied. Somebody got to get one vote
I mean,
above
there's
the
no
other
draw.
person.
Somebody got to win. Right.
Yeah, there's no draw. It got to be that 49.999 something percent and 50 20 something percent, right? And somebody got to win. So if you look at Where we need to change a lot of people in terms of good governance. He would need to do a drastic reshuffle and replacing a lot of people, in my opinion, to
If
get
he wins. Right.
the good governance. I think Weah has a lot of misfits in his
Yeah.
government, a lot of people who are not up to the task
Mhm.
in government. Now, on the flip side, Boakai needs, if Boakai is the one who wins, he needs to come up with very qualified people. For example, like the way Ellen Johnson Sirleaf did in her first term
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the beginning. She
Set the
put the
example.
right people in almost all of the places. It may not be all completely, but at least 90% of the places. And we saw the result until, different story, different day. So
Yeah.
each of those people have to make sure. For where he's the incumbent, if the incumbent, if he wins, he has to do a complete overhaul. The coach has to change almost maybe 90% of his team. If that Waka, even though we have all these conspiracy lists going around and stuff like that, but he needs to bring the right. He needs to act like a former boss, Ellen did from the beginning of a term, and that would be the beginning. That could mark the beginning of some of the good things that we are talking about, like some of the things that Isman alluded to.
Yeah.
That's what I
And
wanted
thank
to
you. Yeah, thank you both. I think those were great suggestion. And I think Alex, you alluded to in your first discussion, the first time you spoke, you alluded to something about performance based contract, right? And from what you guys are saying, it seems as if in every ministry there's a lack of leadership, there's a lack of performance, which flows down the chain and reflected in everything else collectively as a country. Do you think that is something you guys will like recommend prioritizing to put people on a performance contract? That way, if let's say you brought me in as a minister of finance, you expect certain level of performance within that ministry and certain level of revenue every year. It does say, hey, Gabriel, I'm going to appoint you to this role, but I expect you to at least grow the revenue at least 5% every year, 5% every year, 5% every year, 5% every year, right? And put that performance. Do you think that is something not just at the Ministry of Finance, but something that needs to be set across the different ministries in terms of to really get people? Because I don't think we hold ministers' feet to the fire to perform. And I think you alluded to one of that in something about the agriculture minister, right? We should put somebody there who has a agriculture pedigree. Currently, the agriculture minister we have was somebody who was in supposedly operating in the private sector, rice, whatever she had, and we put her in as the I don't know if she still is the agriculture minister, and you know it's cricket. In feeding ourselves, it's cricket and no initiative. You don't hear about no initiative, like Vonnie Sherman, she just flying under the radar right now. Nobody hear anything about her. Whatever Liberian people struggling to feed. So, do you think that is something you guys would recommend in terms of putting performance contracts into these various ministries?
Yeah,
If you can
Gabriel,
answer that question, then we'll move on to the next one.
Gabriel, that's a good question that you asked, and let me use that question to put what I said because your pivot, you were using something that I said, and let me
Yeah,
put it in perspective. You're not wrong. I mean, let me put it in perspective, right?
yeah, right.
Putting the right person there, and you use the agriculture ministry as an example.
Yeah.
Putting the person who have all the pedigree, the qualifications, and has even a track record
Uh-huh.
to play, you can take a good person and put it on a pile of I mean, it's good and good, so to speak, and it
Right.
will be difficult for the person to perform. You can,
Right.
you can put a good person to somewhere and you leave the person there without holding the person's feet to the fire as the boss of the person.
Ah,
The
yeah.
person will do their own thing.
Mhm.
You can pull the person to a job, a very qualified person, in a culture of corruption, in a government that has a culture of corruption, that has a culture of impunity. The person will fall prey. And right, and for some of the things that we heard from agriculture ministry or other ministries,
Mhm.
there are still a few qualified people. I'm not saying
Yeah.
there's absolutely no qualified people, but the culture itself that we have now has to make a drastic change, and that can only come from the head. That is why I said they say character begins at home, or they say what they say in strategic management. The tune start from the top, right? They
Yep.
say the tune at the top. If the tune at the top begets, cricket deals and corruption and this, of course, everybody, the children will feed themselves. So it has to be from the top. The astuteness of a government and the expectation from the lieutenant, the ministers, and the deputy minister, it has to rain down from the head, right? That's why I spoke to the issue. It may not be a rating contract, performance contract per se, but if I was in that shoe, if I want to appoint a minister, I would say, or deputy minister, or assistant minister, send the president, anybody for that matter who I appoint as the president, I will make sure I sit with you within the context of the laws that govern that particular entity and within the context of the vision. Okay, Mr. Ismail talk about the PAPD, for example. Within the vision of the PAPD or whatever stuff we have put in place, I have to hold your feet to the fire as the head of the country because my performance depends on you. The country's performance depends on me as the head of the country, and that performance depends on the lieutenant. Now, let me make one key point here. From my experience working in Liberia, you have the appointed people from the assistant, say for a ministry, you have from the assistant up to the minister, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the people are civil servants who have some of them have been there for year in, year out. To be the head of the entity is a very difficult task.
Yeah. Or their
You
legacy
will
people.
end up doing everybody's job because you have a lot of people under you who could be misfit as well.
You can fire
So
them.
if
You fire them.
you can't fire them, the civil servant, you can't just fire them. I mean, you could fire them, but you can't just fire them. They're civil servant. There's a lot of rules, Of course, the person doesn't perform, you can fire them. That is why you as the head, you have to bring that performance situation to bear. As the president is raining it down on you, you too, you're raining it down on your deputies. Your deputies are raining it down on the assistants are raining it down on everybody else. That culture of performance will permeate through the organization. That to the extent that if you don't perform, if you make certain mistakes, according to the civil servant law, you could be fired, right? And everybody will become afraid. So, as the head of the entity, it is not an easy job. That is why you have to make sure that you put strategic thinkers and strategic managers to work. In as much as you have all the civil servants under you, who probably half of them or more of them, don't know the wherewithal because some of them came there because of different reasons. And you too come there, you don't know what you're about, and it's gonna be tough. And if the head of the person that appoints you don't hold you accountable to perform, it's going to be tough. We ain't going to go nowhere.
Yeah. Jimmy, you have any take on that in terms of performance based
Yeah,
assessment for these
you know,
ministers?
sometimes you can set
Forward.
somebody up for failure. I definitely believe that performance has to be. I mean, for us to be even talking about it. It's just funny. Where will you be working and you don't do your job? Hmm?
Okay.
Where will you be working and you don't do your job? It's just funny. Of course, performance is there, but why I say don't set up somebody for failure. Just what Alex was talking about when he talked about strategic management. You don't want people working in silos. You don't want the minister of finance working in silo with the bank governor or the commerce minister. There has to be a coordination of effort for it to be strategic. You have or each and everybody. There has to be a plan that how you will interact to accomplish a mutual goal. You don't want just one good minister working in one place and then he all he does he doesn't help other in ministries from what he's doing. Each ministry, or your occupation, what your performance, your development, supposed to help other ministries buff to support them in their efforts. So it has to be an inter-support system, well coordinated, so you're all working toward one goal, not there's something in economics called sub-optimization, where you only see about your own business. No, 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 no. We don't want only for the Minister of Youth to thrive. We want the Minister of Youth to thrive, the gender ministry to thrive, and all the agencies that will need their support to thrive. So that means you have to plan together, coordinating your efforts together toward a simple goal. So performance, of course, you got to perform. But what I'm saying is, like for instance, if I would look at the VP Boakai group, he's going to have a lot of professionals available to him. We have a lot of professionals. This administration did not make use of professionals. I will never understand that. I will never understand that. But he will have a plethora of professionals available. I went to school with those boys from LU, and those boys from Lofa. They plenty no book. They plenty, and so he will have a plethora of professional people to choose from.
Yeah.
So now, how do you choose to coordinate the professionals so they work together toward a goal? That would be the main challenge. As for this current administration, they have not appreciated professionals. They don't care. The performance has not been key. I don't understand why. So unless I would have to see something very revolutionary from them, that they change, they do a 180-degree change in how they govern Liberia. Because the way it's done now, it's just superficial. It's not wholesome. It's not something that will take Liberia into the next millennium to promote Liberia to become a country that people will gravitate to. You know, we want to right now we are on the poverty level. How can we? I love the goal of the PDP, and I love the goal of the CDC was to bring people out of poverty. Okay, how do we do that? Do you really have a plan to do that? Let's re-examine that plan, and bring experts to show you how you have to do that to get people out of poverty. Not this superficial things, decode to cover hole. That's not going to work.
And let me add to what
Come on.
let me yeah, Gabriel, let me
Go
add
ahead.
to what just few minutes, I mean few seconds. Let me add to what Ismail was saying. Um 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 Boakai has an arsenal of qualified people around. Yes, of course. Let me buttress his point to it. Yes, of course. We had an arsenal of very qualified people, but for some reason, best known to himself, he decided to sidestep all those people. And when with the thing about the things about the thing about the thing I saw about qualified, well-grounded people is they are independent minded. The people of themselves, they speak truth to power.
Mhm,
They are not afraid of losing a job,
mhm,
right? They are not afraid to going somewhere else in the private sector or going, stepping to another country and flattening a resume around. They're not afraid. So they're not going to take crap. They're not going to clap for you. They're not going to be sycophants. And I believe that maybe so I know that we are the same way as Waka has an arsenal of qualified people. There's the same way that we are has.
mhm.
So that's why I said that in if we are wins the election, if he's ready to turn things around, one of the best way he can do is to tap into a lot of the qualified people he has. If he's willing to leave a legacy, build a legacy, he has to tap into these people and do a complete, maybe 90% shoot of his current government.
Yeah, perfect. Let's take a 1 minute break, and then the next question I want us to go on to, because I think we're just over the hour, is the something that we've talked about here all the time, which is the budget. If either Weah or Mr. Barker gets elected, how do you consistently, at least, you know, keep the revenue at 800 million? You know, because every time we I think the last budget we had was 800 million. If you round it up. But I think every March it got revised, it got recast and downward, and that happened almost every year or so. So the next question I want us to look at is, how do you consistently, or what would you do to at least raise the budget that is about 800 million or so, or even take it up to a billion? And what would you look at? Are you going to do that from a fiscal side? Are you going to do that from the monetary side? Or are you even going to revisit the concession that was signed? Those concession, that we heard about August. Are you going to revisit them, or are you going to focus on, you know, other area in the economy to do that? Because I think at the end of the day, that is the cream of the crops of this whole presidency. Raising your revenue and doing exactly what the people want you to do with the revenue, which is prioritizing what you think are the needs of Liberian people. So let's take a 1 minute break. After that, we'll go right back to that.
Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia for education, information, culture, entertainment, and overall wide variety of programs. Tune in to Focus on Liberia, the best in Liberian diaspora television. We are focused on Liberia, from Kwatawi Falls to the Blue Lake of Bombay, from the Bella Forest in Bapulu to the Atlantic coastline in Buchanan, from Lake Piso in Cape Mount to the Putu and Tiempo mountain ranges of Ground Jide, from River Noah in Grand Cru County to Foya in Lofa, from the Firestone rubber plantation in Habel to the Port of Harper in Maryland, from Providence Island in Monrovia to Sacrepie in Nimba, from Sister City in Riverside to the Kilipo Range in River G, from the Gola Forest in northwest Liberia to the valleys of Jiripo in Sino County. We are focused on Liberia with the strong conviction to educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia, our glorious land of liberty.
Hi, my name is Addie Tyler from Pennsylvania, and you're watching Focus on Liberia.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Focus on Liberia on the Marketplace. With today's topic is, the economic and business climate of either a Weah presidency or a Boakai presidency. So we were looking at, initially we first looked at, what the country is. Um, and I think Alex and Jimmy did a good job in terms of diagnosing some of the problem that we have. And the second question that we looked at was, how do you right the ship? How do you, once you diagnose the problem, how do what do you prioritize? And what do you do in order to right the ship, meaning to get things back on track? So the next question that I want us to look at here is you know, the budget that we've talked about here I think usually we cover it maybe 2 or 3 times during the year. When it's released, when the draft budget is released, when the actual budget is signed into law, and usually when the recast comes up, we usually talk about that here. So that's what I want us to go to today, in the next section here, meaning that the presidency, when you come to power, you need, I don't care how elaborate your policies are, you can come here and say, I'm going to, turn water into wine. Well, when you turn water into wine, you do all of that. You still need money to feed the people. If you following the drift in that, right? The budget, meaning that the budget that you're going to raise is what will allow you to carry out your policies, regardless of how fundamental or how elaborate they might be. The budget will allow you to implement those projects. And I think Alex and Jimmy talked about appointing the right people in place to help you, achieve that goal. So I want us to look at the budget, because every year the budget get passed. Few months later, we get a recast. Every year it get passed. Few months later, so there's something that's telling us that we're either projecting, we're being too optimistic in terms of the projection that we make, or we are just not effective in terms of executing, you know, uh, whether from the fiscal side or the monetary side, to make sure that we can raise the budget that we actually projected. So my next question to you guys is, given the backdrop of the budget that we've had so far, I think you can look at the last 6 years, right? I think we've had a recast maybe 3 or 4 times. How do you guys suggest that we consistently keep raise a budget that is 800 million or above, or at least that doesn't have to be recast anymore because there was shortfall here and there? Would you guys look at it from the fiscal side? Would you do a lot of tax policies in the fiscal aspect and everything else that inclusive of the fiscal side? Or would you look at the monetary side to do that? Or would you look at the business climate? Would you not focus on the business climate to say, if I can get more business paying taxes, I can raise the budget, at least I can keep it up 800 million, or I can bring it up to 1 billion? That's the question to both of you. So any of you guys can go first.
Yeah, Gabriel, before I mean you can go, but please look at some of the comments. The last three comments from Actual Factual.
Okay.
Those are
So
comments that are
let's
based on the things that we discussed just recently.
okay.
But
So
if
let's
you don't want to
maybe
go, you can go. That way you're preparing for that.
okay. Maybe okay. I'm there. Let's take maybe a few, then we can jump into that while you guys, ponder that question. Um, Actual Factual. This person here, I've been trying to get the person behind this name, but I don't know who it is. Um, he said, how do we ensure that those professionals don't partake in fraudulent and corrupt activity? Um, I think that goes for both of you. What do you, you know, putting in the right people is a different thing. Ensuring that they don't become part of the system that they got sucked in is a whole different thing, because of, if you against the system will always win. So how do you make sure the people that you bring in, you're going to put in, the people that you put in will not
Yeah,
become part of that?
I think that's a fair question, and there are many things that go into answering that question.
Mhm.
Um, Actual factual. First of all, I'd like to let you know that, and in most training, at least postgraduate education and training today, ethics are one of the chief emphasis made. In other words, you don't want people just to be good at a job, but you also want them to be ethical. You want them to be honest. So ethics is one of those things that today are drilled into professionals. Now, some people may claim that they have a degree and they are professionals. Well, for me, I tend to disagree with that. I see you have a degree. If you have never exercised your knowledge in a specific area, you're going out in the world and apply that knowledge. All you have is academic qualifications. You don't have professionalism. You don't become a professional until you are actually applying those things that you've learned in school. Until you are bringing those things to the real world and exercising your ability to use the knowledge that you acquired. That's when you become a professional. And also, professionals have to be ethical. So, yeah, when you bring your professionals in, how can we assure we've seen this happen. We've seen this happen in the last administration with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. We heard some people with all kinds of qualification coming in, but later we heard them tainted with these scandals of in you know financial scandals that involve fraudulent and illegal things. How do you do it? Well, I think Alex talked about it. There has to be punitive measures taken against such folks. One of the chief deterrents for dishonesty and criminal activity is punishment.
Yeah.
And that is that. If people know that if you steal this money, if you embezzle this money, if this money is missing, let's say you didn't even it's just missing, and it's under your watch, and if some punitive actions be taken, if you know you're going to lose your house, lose your savings, serve jail time, then you would think twice. So the only way to discourage your professionals from participating in the culture of theft and dishonesty is to make it is to punish them very severely. You don't jump up punish them the same way you punish somebody way down the line. You punish them severely to set example because they are leaders, and what they do set the trend for what other people do. So you punish them openly and severely, and that's the only way you're going to do it. That's the only way. If that is enough to answer that question, that is the only other. There's no other way to do it. Yeah, in this country, many of us we know very well. If you if you if you speed and they catch you speeding, you will they will come behind you. They'll give you a ticket, and that will in turn affect your driving points, which will also affect how much insurance you pay. So if you're a big time speeder and you got a reckless driving ticket for speeding way over the limit, your insurance coming go up. So instead of paying $100 a month, now you're starting to pay $200. So these measures are taken to discourage this behavior, and it's not right. When I've heard they say we all family, we all one people, how we just no, 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 no. You are breeding corruption. I don't care if that's my brother that did it, and as much as I love my brother, but why you did this thing? There has to be punishment. And if we're not going to encourage the punishment, we're going to continue with this corruption, and that's it. There's no other solution but to punish it. I don't see any other. Alex, you can go ahead.
Yeah, Jimmy, you said it all. I mean, I'll just add that professionals or no professional, men by nature is evil, right? That's why you put in rules and regulations. That's why you enforce them, and that's why you hold people accountable. So when you put professionals to work, you have to hold them accountable to whatever performance, whatever it is. You can delegate a responsibility to somebody and leave the person alone and leave the person to his field. If you have a culture of impunity, of course, professionals themselves will come in and let the evil within them as a human being come out. There are only a few people in this world, especially in a third world country or even in Liberia for that matter, who have the audacity to walk away, to say, no, I'm not going to be part of this.
Yeah.
But we've seen even professionals from the United States who've gone to Liberia and do whatever and just part of the
And
spoil,
then ran away, came back here.
form part of the spoil of the society. There are only a very handful of people who will say, no, I don't want to be part of that thing. I can walk away. So you have to make sure you do some of the things that Jimmy has talked about. I don't want to, beat the dead horse, but Jimmy has said it all.
Okay. So whatever you guys said, there's a follow-up comment here from the same guy. He said, why should we wait for a leader to initiate mechanism and procedure to fight corruption? What if the new leader take power and fight against corruption, but next leader takes power and doesn't? Oh, I think somebody alluded to that. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Gilbert, that's the first question he asked. I want to take those two questions. The one before this one. I want to take those two together.
The one before this one. This one.
How do you ensure these professional? No, the other one. The one after this one.
This one here.
Yeah,
corruption is the underlying problem. What tool and procedure would need to be in place to prevent corruption and fraud?
Okay. So, now you can bring the other question. You can bring the other question that you put there. The other hand. Good.
Voila.
So Liberia has tools to fight corruption. Actual factor. We have tools to fight corruption. I can name some of them. We have laws to fight corruption. We have the institutions that are charged with the responsibility of implementing those laws. Now, one of them is the General Auditing Commission. And there's a whole process that leads to legislative hearing there's a committee, the Public Account Committee at the legislature, and there's a whole process that they have a secretariat at the legislature that's supposed to take audit report, look at them, synthesize them, because sometimes audit report too can be, it has its own biases in it. So they would take that, they would do their own research, and then they would take it to the legislature and they will call people in, those who are named in the report. They will call them in to defend themselves, to send records. There's a whole process, even before they go to court. And sometimes on the process will lead to reprimand by the president. And we've seen that process before where people names have been put in newspaper in the past time, the name and shame situation and all that stuff. And we have a situation where people are paid also to what they've been charged. It's like you plead guilty and you go, instead of going to court, okay, I will pay. And people pay. So there's a whole process. You have the LCC, right? The Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission has the power to investigate corruption court cases. And now the law has been revived for them to go to even directly to court. Initially, they will send it to the Ministry of Justice. The Ministry of Justice will go to court through prosecution. And after 90 days, if the Ministry of Justice doesn't act, then they will act. But now they have the right prosecutory authority. You have that. You have the internal audit agency that is even embedded in the ministries that do even pre-audit before striking threshold of expenditures is approved before even it happens. You have the Financial Intelligence Unit. You have the Public Procurement Commission. So you have all lot of facets of fighting corruption, my friend. So these institutions, these laws are there. But you know what? It takes people to implement the laws. It takes people to write the laws. It takes people to implement it. It takes leadership. It takes leadership to rise to the occasion and say, you know what? I need to leave a legacy. I need to do right by the citizens of this country. That's my duty. That's why I went and came to power for the people. So everybody is going to do the right thing. And if you don't take that stand, if you don't even hold your legislator accountable, and you don't create a culture of the legislature holding you accountable, and you're holding your deputies that you appointed in, deputy meaning those people that you appointed ahead of, and deputies and of those institutions to feed to the fire, those laws that we have, they will be laying down in the books. And if you start those institutions on the back by way of not providing them with the authority, not allowing them to utilize their authority and not allowing them to use their autonomy to act. That is why you have some of these institutions have tenure, so that they are not afraid to do what they have to do because they're not afraid to lose a job because they have tenure. But if you put all those things aside and start doing the same old, then that's where we have the problem. So when you start that, to answer the last part of your question, the next leader takes power. When you start that, when the culture is built, then the next leader to come on will say, no, I got to continue on the team trajectory. But the leader could also say, no, I don't get time for that thing. I will do my own thing. Yeah, so it depends. But we have the processes, the procedures, we have the laws and stuff. They just need leadership to be enforced.
All right, so he has a follow-up question to you here. Maybe you can answer that. And then we'll move on to the budget thing. So, Mr. Coffey, do you feel that those tools, for example, the law, gag, etc., are effective? Do those tools need reform and improvement?
Yeah, actual fact is that sometimes that's some of the mistakes we made in Liberia. I remember a situation where with the gender ministry, they went to the legislature in terms of this rape issue. Then they were calling for they called for, oh, we need to revamp the law. The law need amendment. And one of the senators asked. The senator said that, oh, but I know this law. This law was prepared properly and stuff like that. There may be one or two screws we need to check in. But the question is, have we tested this law? The current law, have we tested the law? And it didn't work. And you can only test law, and when it doesn't work, then you amend the portions that are not working. Or you scrap the whole thing, you change it at all. And to answer your question, my friend, the processes we have, the institution we have, they have the wherewithal to fight. But what happened is we are not allowing them to do their job that the law permits them to do. We are stabbing them in the back. So until we do that on a continuous basis, like in the case of the LSCC, when we found out that the LSCC said it needed the authority to fight, to go directly to the court because they felt that the Ministry of Justice was stalling their cases, they changed the law and they gave them prosecutorial power. So yes, the laws can be changed, it can be harnessed, it can be improved, but we have them on the books and we're not testing them, we're not putting them to use. Actually, to answer your question, yeah. We can't just be changing law when we not test the laws.
Exactly.
We got things on the books.
Yeah.
We just need to implement.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. Sorry about that. Hey, Jimmy, I think he has a question for you too. Maybe you want to look at that. I think it's a statement, actually, not a question. He said, Mr. Eastman, I'm thinking more about the tools, mechanism, and procedure that would be in place. For example, detect fraud and corruption, investigate the incident, and then correct the situation.
Mr. Actual Factual, those things are there.
Yeah.
They are there in Liberia. They are there. Nobody, that's why I always say to people, sometimes people don't understand the environment in Liberia. So they think that nothing exists. No, those things are there, Chief. The GAC has a law. They have GAC, for example, they subscribe to international agencies, they subscribe to Intostai, they subscribe to this, and they have procedures in place to do their professional procedures in place to do their audit, right? LSCC, the same thing. The FIU, the same thing. The FIU, the Financial Intelligence Unit, for instance, is part of the network that fight money laundering and stuff like that, right? And they are institution for Liberia, but they have reporting processes even to the international system, right? So those processes are there. It is the implementation, the enforcement, and the fact that we stab this institution in their back that is causing the problem.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a little bit of time left. I don't know if we answer this next question or if we just wrap up. I wanted us to look at the budget aspect of this whole.
I heard what you asked. Just to make it quick, any system I think a lot of things were actual factual was asking. You're looking at the system and the mechanisms, the tool mechanisms combined to make a system. But the last element of any system is the human factor.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings form part of the system. So the human beings, if they're not performing correctly, it will affect the system. Again, so we come back to the same thing. Joe, Alex will say, is the law or are those mechanisms not there, or is it the human factor that is messing things up? And that is why we said the only way to get that human factor to correct it is to take punitive measures against it. Then when you get the human factor correct, and then we will see if the mechanisms that we have employed are adequate. But if the human factor is not performing as expected for that system, then you throw a wrench in it. When it comes to the budget issue, I'm not a big budget guy. And I think we looking at I hear there's a race to get $1 billion budget. For me, I would scrutinize your budget. If
Yeah.
half of your money, your budget, if it is being spent on recurrent expenses like salaries,
Yeah.
that doesn't do me good. I'm not satisfied with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see genuine um, development and revenue growth. And I'm not just seeing just ordinary growth. I'm talking about development. In other words, if yeah, they may make him more money, but guess what? Right now, all his children are in school. But there's no need of somebody making more money and then they're no different before. This man making more money, but he ain't get no flush toilet in his house. He ain't get no sewer system. They're still taking bath outdoors.
Yeah.
We need to change the livelihood of the people. We need to address them that. Let their life be better than before. So don't mind these figures that they throw around. It has that person's life being changed? Are they now? Are those children now finishing school? Are they now getting jobs and having their families? These are the truths and things you look at. So, budget, looking at the budget alone, and I do not see the budget being invested into developing the economy. It does me no good. So for me, I wouldn't look at the parameters of budget alone. I'm going to look at the number of kids going to school, the number of kids graduating from school, the number of kids out of school, the number of kids selling in the market instead of being in school. I'm going to look at the amount of girls now gainfully employed in the society. I'm going to look at the number of farms now that who are producing a ton of maybe few metric tons of corn before. Today we are producing 10 times that much. And those are the things I'm going to measure development in, not budget. If there's nothing changes in the economy, but you're just spending more money on recurrent salaries and debt servicing, that doesn't do anything. If one thing we need to stop doing, I see in Liberia, we cannot be borrowing to pay off other debt.
Take
We
it
should be
forward.
borrowing to generate economic activity in the country.
Yeah.
That then you will realize. But I noticed they borrow, and a lot of that borrowing is not we're not realizing anything. We're not getting anything out of it. There are some books that have been written that one of the trappings for Africa is that they get us to take a loan, They know very well the loan money will not go for the intended purpose. Then, so in other words, you're supposed to build a factory, or you're supposed to develop a system to make more money, and they don't do it. They eat the money. Now you have to borrow more to pay back the other debt. All the money you borrow is just to pay back the other debt. So we have to scrutinize these loans we're getting. Some of these loans we are selling our children's future. We're just selling them. They will be owing millions and millions of dollars debt. The other day they forgave us. Gabriel, why do you think those countries will forgive all the debts for Africa? Why they forgive it? France, or why no? I think Ellen Johnson finally met the criteria. They forgive Liberia for all that debt. Why are they giving all the debts? Because number one, we're never going to be able to pay it. Number two, all that debt was just a way of getting. It was a lot of tricks and stuff that were in that debt. It was not fair. They had all the money they took out of Africa, all the riches, the human capacity, everything they took out of Africa. They haven't paid us for it, but we will pay them trillions and trillions of dollar debt. It's not right. So you know what? Let me just leave it. And they forgave of our debt. Okay, do we now plunge ourselves in more debt? Do we repeat the same things, just getting in debt? Our goal has to be, if we borrow money, it has to be directly related to revenue generation and capital, not to pay salaries and to pay off debt servicing. And it's a crime. I think every government that takes a loan only to punish the people in the future, and they don't do nothing with that loan, they are betraying Liberia.
Yeah.
They are betraying Liberia. So revenue budget, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at how the money is spent. What is it doing? That is more important to me.
Perfect. So with that being said, Alex, maybe I should reframe this question, because I was looking at ways we can raise the budget to 800 million without recasting it, from the policy and monetary side. But given what Jimmy have just stated, how do you and the fact that our budget is, like you said, I think 60% or more than that is spent on reoccurring expenditure. What do you propose if the next president get elected, they should do to shift that from that percentage being on reoccurring expenditure to maybe less of it being on reoccurring expenditure and more of it being developmentally focused? Like, is that something you think either Weah or Mr. Boakai can achieve? Because because the budget is a law, and in order to change that, you must pass a law that will cut away from those expenses, mostly the salaries to these representatives and senators. Do you think any of these individuals have the ability to shift that budget to make it developmentally focused?
Yeah, Gabriel, thank you. Your first question is in place, and the revision of the question, that is the second part of the question, is in place. So
Yep.
I would say
Go
that
ahead.
the question you asked, the question you asked in the first place were in two parts. And I think Jimmy did justice to it. So this whole euphoria about increasing our budget to 1 billion and doing this, the budget will move to this. But you need to look at the budget first. The budget needs to be restructured. Is
Right.
the current budget we have, is it benefiting the people? Or are we just using it for recurring expenditure, salaries and recurring expenditure only? What part of the budget is there for development? Yeah, we know we put some of the things on the Ministry of Public Works and other agencies that do different work, but how much of the budget goes to those areas? If you look at the PSIP, the private sector investment plan part of the budget, what does it go to? Is it going to private sector led situation? Is it going to diaspora engagement, for example, to improve That's projects where we encourage more investment? Is it going into investment initiative where we're trying to do situation where we improve our doing business in Liberia, the business climate improvement? So we need to look first of all at structuring the budget. If you look at the budget as it stands now, and one of the things the IMF and have been talking about, and what led to even the harmonization process, almost 50%, 40 something percent of our budget was salary. I mean, you can't go, letting people go and stuff like that. So how do you manage that? Well, you can add on more people and you rob people to paper with a system called harmonization. So you have that situation. And you have all these different institutions that feed into the budget, right? So restructuring the budget will mean a lot of stuff. Do we move money around into productive situations? But if we do that, are we now going to harm the productive capacity of this other institution? How do we look at the salaries? How do we either reduce the salary or keep it as it is, so that the salary portion? Because if you grow the budget to 800 million or to 1 billion, salaries will increase. Goods and services or recurring expenditure to institution. We've seen a situation where we attempted to grow the budget, even though we did recast, but where did most of that money go? It went to increasing executive budget, it went to increasing the legislative budget, even though we tried to increase some of the institution budget, but most of those in our budget performance report, did most of those institutions get the money, right? That was budgeted, right? So we first of all need to restructure our budget. And that will call for even examining our institutions. What are some of these institutions? Are they supposed to be there? Right?
Exactly.
Are they meaningful? Or we are just putting institution on top of institution. We are passing laws and creating different institutions. So we need to re-examine some of these institutions, whether they're supposed to be there. That's one thing. So that their chunk of the budget can be removed. Right? So we need to look at the whole governance structure, the whole structure of the budget, and recalibrate that. Now, the second part of the question is the growth. Once
Yeah.
we can look at the budget, the institutions that are eating on our budget, the salary portion that is eating on our budget, look at the budget growth. But we cannot look. The budget cannot grow. The budget can only grow from domestic revenue, right? Generation. And how
Right.
do we increase domestic revenue? Except we increase the private sector performance.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about, private sector investment. We're talking about more people and more private sector coming to the country. And that begets a lot of other things, like some of the things we're talking about. Implementation of rule and law, making sure that our security system, making sure that our country is even, don't have the kind of reputational damage that we're having out there, so that people can feel free. You have talking about the right people trying to out there to those, the investment. So you have to increase private sector. That's why. And then when you increase the private sector, what happens? Government become less of the main employer.
Right.
So you are shifting some of those people away from government to the private sector. So government will not be burdened by being the biggest employer or by being the. In fact, right now, government is almost almost
The
not
biggest
the sole,
employer.
but is
Right.
almost the sole employer. Yeah, right. So you have maybe 40% of the employment force or 60% of the employment force is shifted into the private sector. And you can only do that by some of the things that we've said here, Gabriel. You can only grow the budget through serious private sector growth,
Mhm.
tourism, different things, that come to play. But again, like some of the things that Jimmy said, as you're doing that, then you're improving the electricity grid. As you're doing that, you're improving the roads, farm to market road. Different things will gradually begin to improve.
Perfect. I think we have. Let's take two comments and then we'll wrap up. From this man, this I wish I know who this person was. Is yeah, actual factual. Um, he's a constant follower and he always has some good questions. He said also, is the government currently All right, I think there's a one more. I think you had a question here. So the first question here, he said, how do you guys feel about making government smaller by cutting the number of government employees? You have any take on that?
Yeah, that would be a difficult thing. What we should do, the first thing is um, the whole thing about we've seen this thing from government to government. It is not just this government. Every government comes in, they bring more people, they pile on more people. But again, government is there to serve the people. So the best thing to do, we, the best way we can cut is to have a private sector growth.
Right,
The private sector needs to grow so that even vulnerable employment will increase. By vulnerable employment, we mean that those who leave their house and do small work, they're the pepper boys, the
right,
motor boy, or the wheelbarrow sellers, you know, and those people eventually you can turn that thing around and make it more formal, right?
yeah,
As the market grow, then those small Yana boys and pepper boys, that thing now we can turn it around like other countries have done, right? And make it more formal. Even the selling at rail light, we can make it formal. The selling at radical market, those things we can make it formal, right? As the private sector grow. So yeah, so one of the ways to do that thing, not necessarily cutting employment, but kind of minimizing government being the sole employer by growing the private sector.
yeah, yeah. Actual factual, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, I think probably if you anybody coming, you want to you know, plug leakages. I think those are some of the places you can actually look at, because sometimes I always like to tell this story. 2019, when I bought a land, I went into to meet the Deputy Minister of Lands and Mines, and there was someone in his office who answer questions. There was two other people there who were just, I don't know, errand. They ran errand, and I just thought, and he just sat there and just did nothing. Even to go write a memo, somebody has to. You call somebody to go write the memo, and I think some of those things you can cut down some of those if you really want to come in to trim the budget. Let's say if you come in, you want pass the budget law to really make a developmental focus, and for some reason it doesn't get passed. You can look at cutting some of those places. But then again, to what extent do you have the authority? Because let's say in the case of the deputy minister of lands and mine, he has the ability to hire those people. So that's upon him. I don't know if that comes from his salary. I don't know a lot about that, but I think it is a good idea because you have an overbloated uh, government. You end up spending more money on you know wages and everything else. But it's not. It's easier said than done. You know. So the next question he has here is also, is the government currently hiring private companies to provide government contractors to provide subject matter expertise? I would think that this could poor economic growth. Um, so, yeah, are you aware of any of this? I'm sure every government does. I'm sure every government does. Um, do you have any comment on this? And then we'll go on the last one. If not, he said, "Wow, Mr. Coffee, we must have like minds. Just what just what I was thinking in my previous questions." I think he agreed with you what you were saying about uh Alice, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you faintly. I'm
Okay.
kind of losing situation
Losing.
here, so
Okay.
but I
Yeah.
heard what you said faintly.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
reading it,
So
reading a comment.
actual factor is agreeing with you here. I think on the previous question that you just answered, you said you guys are thinking alike. Um, but if that's it. If you don't have any other follow up, I think that brings us to the end of this show. Um, I know this was a a topic that I think it was Jimmy. No, it was you that came up with it. So it's a great topic. I learned a little bit from that. Um, I hope everyone watching to learn a little bit from this. As we come here to talk about these things, we're not, we just look at what is happening within the government, especially where we are as a country, and trying to add, one or two, as Oman would say, add 1 or 2 cents to what is happening in the country. So hopefully you were able to learn something, and thank you for your contribution for those of you that commented. But Alex, before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts? And it could be on any other questions. All right.
Yeah. So I think
Well,
yeah, I
there's a
heard you. Yeah.
unless
So
there's a comment you want to take. All right, go
what
ahead.
I
Sorry.
think is to conclude on my comment here, because I run out of power and everything else. To conclude is I think right now we know
LEC
we
go.
are. Hello,
LEC go.
you hear me? No,
I can
LSE,
hear
you go.
you. You said
Yeah,
you
you
ran out
hear
of
me.
power.
But Gabriel, let me before I leave, let me first of all apologize for the little thing we had here back and forth.
No,
But
don't worry,
let me
man. I don't.
apologize for that.
No, no, no. Don't
This
worry.
is FOL. We shouldn't do that on the show, so I
Yeah.
take responsibility and I apologize
No,
for that.
no, don't worry about
But
it. Good.
I think the election is between two persons right now, and at this point, I would advise both. I mean, I wouldn't say who can do it better. I will advise both persons to kind of think about some of these things and do them properly. Again, the way we've said, I will always say again, good governance beget everything else. Once you can put the right people to place, and you have a plan of action. And I remember once back in the Ellen government, as the head of the financial intelligence unit,
Yeah.
Liberia had been downgraded by the institution for not putting certain laws in place. And that I came face to face with Ellen, and she was like, "What?" I just told her right away the way I could get out of that situation was tell her, "Madam, I will do a plan of action to get Liberia out of this situation."
Mhm.
And she said, "I need that now. I need that in the next couple of days. Just communicate with the rightful people and come to me." And I did that plan and I submitted to her. She approved the plan. And the next thing was to finance the plan. She said, "Well, we can't give you all the money, but we can give you some of the money."
Mhm.
And as a result of that, sometimes the chief of staff will, the office staff will pick up the phone and call. And you know what it is to go meet the president. You got to dress, you got to think about it. Sometimes they tell you the date or the time. You don't sleep well. You get pondering what the president calling you for. Sometimes just family discussion. But the
Yeah.
question is, how far are we? That was one question. One of these
Yeah.
meetings, it was just how far are we with the plan?
Right.
And for 15 minutes, I took time to, this we do this, we did this. Okay, she picked up the phone, she called this person, she picked up that phone, she called the other person. Okay, Mr. Coffee, go to Mr. The guy who ran was the money bag guy. Go to money bag, your highness, all these things because we need to get out of the situation. Before we realize we achieved that, we achieved that. So that's why I continue to say that the head of the country needs to hold people. First of all, need to put the right people, need to hold people accountable, need to
Mhm.
ensure that they're doing their work, and if they don't do their work after repeated time, and the rest of the things we're talking about here, we add on. Education, we add on. Health, we
Yep.
add on. We not achieve everything in
Right.
one day, but we make incremental gains, right?
In the right
As long
direction.
as we
Yeah.
have the good leadership pedigree. And I would advise either we are or Boakai to ensure that when they win, to put the good governance in place, to make sure that rule of law is adhered, is implemented, and to make sure that they fight corruption. If you do those three things, private sector growth will start coming, education will start improving, healthcare will start improving. Of course, those other facets of government that takes care of that, they need to start working as well.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank for the audience. Jimmy, thanks for
Jimmy,
coming on board despite your airport situation.
your mechanic showed up.
Not yet. It's ridiculous. But anyway, it is what it is. We're looking forward. I like we all said. there's opportunity there, but are we ready to, do the right thing, and put Liberia first, not our bellies, But I really appreciate coming on the show, man. Even though y'all jinxed me, but it was good.
No. Thank you. I would say this in public. I think I've said that. I think I told Dennis that I like your commitment when you commit to something. Since you've been coming on the show, you've been consistent. Like sometimes you even reach out to me. Hey, we're having a show today. I say, man, this Jimmy's even bugging me today. I didn't even want to get on there. But sometimes your commitment can hold other people accountable to do the
There
right
you
thing.
go.
So, yeah. So thank you for being
Okay.
consistent. Yeah. So hopefully your mechanic show up and you leave what is it, Utah
Yeah.
isn't that the Mormon
Yeah, well,
yeah.
they talk about it, but I haven't seen all that many. Yeah, but
you haven't seen, you haven't seen any of them, but
Yeah.
no, thank you for joining, and hopefully you safe travel out of there, and we'll see you next Saturday.
Okay. All right,
All right.
boss. Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, I know you guys are still watching. I'm about to wrap up right now, trust me. All right. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next Saturday. I think this was a great discussion, despite the the little snafu Alex and I had. And but again, we apologize for that. But thank you for watching, and I hope you had a good time watching. See you next Saturday. Adios.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our